Hi there, we are back. I'm Tammy Lackey from Acclaimed Heating, Cooling and Furnace Cleaning for a weekly Facebook Live, and I've got my lovely husband beside me.
I'm Kevin, and it's this technology is amazing, but it's amazing how many times it loses connectivity.
Yeah, it's the struggles and the reality of Facebook Live. When we go in, we recirculate and repercolate. So anyway, thank you for coming back. We meet once a week on Friday afternoons, and today is September the 22nd. It is a gloomy day outside, and we are feeling like winter's around the corner with some snow that happened this week a little bit, and got us all scared for that winter season. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of snow. I saw a truck with lots of snow in a Home Depot parking lot. It's just shocking. It
is shocking. So we have a Facebook Live, as you can be experiencing today. And on our Facebook Live, what we do is we do a Dear Keven letter. It is a rendition that we have that is very similar to the Dear Abby letters, if you don't know what we're speaking of and haven't been with us before. And what it does is we do a letter that viewers, our customers, give us, and it is dealing with a conundrum that someone's experiencing and want to have an answer with our lovely Kevin, which is our residential expert, which is great. So the Dear Keven letter this week is talking about getting furnace and duct cleaning done and when to do that. And then we also have an exciting thing tonight that before we hit the Dear Keven letter, we have the evening of the vignette design series. It's got the gala tonight. This is a really cool feature experience that Edmonton gets, and they get to feature different designers and interior designers and renovators and get to showcase their talent. And I think it's an 8x8 space. Is that what you know?
I don't know. I'm going to be surprised, and I'm going to be delighted by what Paul and his gang have set up there, and some other great people that we know too.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, you ready for the Dear Keven letter?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right. So, Dear Kevin, my furnace is now on, and I'm freaking out. I'm in the middle of a major renovation and not done until January. Who am I kidding? Likely not getting done until spring. That's how renovations go, don't they?
They do.
I'm changing my filter every couple of weeks. Based on what I'm finding on the filter, I should probably be doing it weekly. I'm getting worried about our air quality and the furnace getting damaged. I should mention we are living in the basement throughout the renovation. Do I wait to finish my renovation before I get my ducts cleaned, or should I do it now? Signed, just call me Dusty.
Just call me Dusty. Dusty could have signed that like Mr. Realist too, because he knows that renovation might just take a little bit longer than usual, and perhaps a little bit more expensive than usual too. That usually goes hand in hand. In terms of the construction dust, it is pretty shocking and amazing how much construction dust there is, from sawdust getting sawn for baseboards and all that type of woodwork, and then from the drywalling. Drywalling dust and compound in the air is really something, and this time of year especially, the furnace needs to be on to keep that house warm when that construction is happening. And couple that with the drywallers and the mudders really wanting the house to be really hot to dry out their mud fast, which they always do. Painters the same thing. You get all of this dust in the air, your furnace has to be on to heat the house, and the thing that's in the way between that and the heat is your filter. So one big important thing during construction is to check that filter on the furnace a lot and make sure that that filter is not restricting the airflow.
Right.
When we go into houses and I'm working with their contractors, sometimes that filter is literally like a piece of cardboard because that's totally plugged up.
Yeah, you can't even tell that it's a filter. It looks like a solid mass.
Yeah, it's amazing too because it's all white too. So if it's drywall dust, it actually doesn't even look like dust because it looks just like the filter, which is white. So, a big thing to remember there in the combination of getting your ducts and furnace cleaned and when to do that in the construction process, the filter is a big deal. And knocking it off even during construction is a great idea. Now, when to get the furnace and ducts cleaned during that construction project? It's a great idea to get it cleaned and done after that drywall stage. So there's a stage that you get to in home construction and renovations where all of that big dust stuff from drywalling and that finishing carpentry is done. And now there's things like the kitchens and the bathroom and the flooring and things like that. So keeping that workplace clean, making sure that there's not a lot of dust going onto that final paint finish and things like that. It's not uncommon that we are going into a house, we're cleaning that duct system and that furnace out before the entire renovation is done. Once it's all done, we go back in and we do that final clean. And the big thing is to make sure that your filter is clean. And during construction, because it is so dusty and messy and things like that, it's not necessary sometimes to put a new filter in, just knocking out a good quality pleated filter and then putting it back in. Because I've seen sites where in half a day that filter needs to be changed with all that stuff going on.
And how important is it, and how hard is it on the furnace itself, having that stuff go through the furnace itself with the drywall dust?
Great question. It's really, really hard on it because that drywall dust that's in the air, if you ever been into an area like that and you kind of breathe some of that stuff in, so it's almost like sandpaper kind of on your teeth and on your lips and stuff like that. So on all the mechanical components of the furnace, there's always, you know, a couple high-tech motors on those. It really is not good for those to be running with that because all of that dust gets inside of the motor windings and it's like little sandpaper to that. So definitely not a great thing to do. Important that it's cleaned.
Now, you had mentioned, I remember we were talking about that when we were doing renovations, and that there was a lot of times there's compressors around the place with that you can kind of just do a light air wash of things. Is that advisable, or only like, well, we kind of did it because we have the know-how, but what do you think, what are your thoughts on that in terms of somebody managing that? Like, I feel for these people, they're in their basement for the whole winter, living in their basement, and like, kudos to you for doing that, because that must be a struggle for everybody. Hopefully everybody works full-time and is out of the house.
Right.
But I'm thinking about if there's any kind of, you know, tips and tricks people can do about their air vents to cover them, or should they cover them, or what, anything like that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a great idea to cover the air vents with like a screen type of solution, almost like your screen from your door. Or you can get like little chicken wire screen that's about 1/4-inch screen. Really, really easy to get. A lot of contractors have that for other things as well. That way things don't fall down into the vents.
Okay.
And with that filter and that air circulating through, most of the time there's trades that have a compressor on site. So framers, finishing carpenters, there's all sorts of trades that have a compressor with compressed air in it. So taking that filter out and banging it outside, getting it outside and getting it clean, great. But if there's a compressor on site, which there oftentimes is, just kind of back washing that or back blowing that, getting that stuff off of there and putting it back in is great. And then once all of that really dusty, dirty stuff that's floating around the air is done with that construction project, then it's time to kind of make sure that you put in a new filter and as well check that periodically as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I also know that when people are doing the renovations, quite often when we go in there after they've been renovating, we find a lot of drywall and building materials in the air ducts. So a suggestion before people start that is to kind of cover that up so people don't use those beautiful vents in the floor for dustpans, because they're very handy to have if you're sweeping the floor, but kind of a pain for what you end up in your duct system.
Well, they are. I've got lots of great tools that come out of duct systems, actually.
Yeah,
a lot of our guys have found stuff that contractors accidentally knocked down there. And quite right, a lot of times it all depends on the general contractor and the way the job is being run. Yeah. And sometimes we find those vents actually plugged full, right level with the floor finishing when we go in there to clean a house after construction. So definitely something to keep an eye on, definitely something to monitor to get the best airflow and keep things running smoothly and not do any damage to the furnace.
Yeah, great information. All right, good luck to this. Just call me Dusty. I feel my heart hurts for them, because I know that if they think the renovations will be done in January and he's not saying till spring, then I know they're probably thinking summer, because that always happens, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, thanks, Dusty.
Yeah, just call him Dusty. That's funny. So tonight, I had mentioned before that we're going to the Vignette Design Series. They're having their opening tonight gala, and we're going to be doing some Facebook Lives to see if that's something you want to take in over the next month or so. That'll be really, really cool to have that stuff in our city. It's really nice to see all the talent we have in our world and in Edmonton that showcases all of our stuff. You didn't see that, but we had Adam Sweeney that was walking across the back doing a little dance, so it was hard for Kevin to stay focused.
Oh, I'm focused. I'm just extra happy.
That Adam. He's adorable. You guys know what we're talking about if you've had Adam in your house. He's an awesome gentleman. All right, so that is it, I think, for this Facebook Live today. We got to that question about the furnace and duct cleaning, which is a well-situated question at this time of year for sure, especially if you're in the midst of starting renovations. So the tip on that is try and make sure things don't get into your air ducts, the big chunky stuff if ever possible, and then to clean that air filter. It's kind of like the same old thing that we say week after week, which is watch your air filter. Watch your air filter. Watch your air filter. Yes.
Watch your air filter.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Have a great week, what weekend that is, and we will see you tonight for a Facebook Live at the Vignette Design Series. I'm excited because it says it's a gala, so I hope it's fancy. That does not sound good to you, though, does it?
Fancy, not fancy. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Bye-bye.